Hotels housing asylum seekers set on fire. Mosques and immigration centres targeted nationwide. Violence, racist attacks, looting.
Last year was a tumultuous year for the UK, marked by riots that ignited fear and division. Mosques were vandalised, Muslims were targeted, and Islam faced harsh criticism. Sadly, this is not a new story. Islamophobia and hostility towards Muslims were two of the motivating factors which inspired us to found the Islamic Diversity Centre all the way back in 2002. We wanted to illuminate the truth of Islam, celebrate its beauty, and dismantle harmful stereotypes. In the wake of the riots in the summer of 2024, we launched the Discover Islam exhibition at Newcastle City Library. We invited the public to explore the essence of Islam. In 2024 alone, we hosted 4 major exhibitions. Our mission extends to schools, where we conduct exciting, engaging workshops, and we connect with the general public every Saturday and on weekdays in Newcastle City Centre. Furthermore, we now have an Islamic awareness table in South Shields. We're really making waves, resulting in 52 shahadas, over 2,000 non-Muslims being engaged with, and over 900 Qur'ans being distributed. But we don't stop there. Our dedicated new Muslim support department ensures that everyone who embraces Islam receives the guidance they need on their journey. All of this work relies on your support. Brothers and sisters, we need your help to continue this mission. Please donate to Islamic Diversity Centre and be part of this transformative journey.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa
Walaikum
rahmatullah.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we're back again, boys. Back again with the In Their Footsteps, the Prophetic Way.
Episode 3.
Episode 3, that's right. This show's sponsored by the Qurani app, and it's also sponsored by Hype. And in fact, we have myself, who was a former Hype attendee, Mohammed, who was also a former Hype attendee, and the guy who started it all,
The man himself.
the super sub. Isa couldn't make it today, so we had to bring in the big boss, the super sub. You know, he came in to score a late minute goal.
Many thanks for coming though. And the last minute,
Jazakallah khair for
Jazakallah
inviting me,
khair.
boys.
So maybe you could introduce yourself. You know, talk about why you started Hype, and we can talk about the continuation of Hype and where we are at today.
So, yeah, I mean, Bismillah, inna alhamdulillah, as-salatu was-salam ala rasulillah. So, as you know, Hype stands for Helping Young People Evolve. It's one of the sponsors for Stream Islam. Hype, we started up back in 2007, around that, 2006, 2007.
Would have been 5.
You would have been 5 years
That
old?
would have been 5.
How old were you, Mohammed, bro?
Yeah, 5.
5 as well? Jazzy, how old were you? 2006, 2007. There you go, man. So we set it up in order to continue the youth work that I was involved in from prior to that. So the youth work that I was doing from the early 2000s, we decided to formalize it into an organization.
Right.
And the idea was to help the young people with the guidance and support that they need from older members of the community, older brothers, who, when we were growing up, we didn't have.
Yeah.
Right. So when we were growing up in Newcastle, going through all the different issues, and because we had to deal with things like overt racism, violence, identity issues, trying to find our feet, trying to balance, your Islamic identity with Western identity.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate all of the normal things that young people go through, but also the Islamic aspect of trying to hold on to your Islamic identity, and then but without having any. You had your parents and the older generation, but you didn't have anyone in between that, no older mentors to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was guesswork and just finding your own feet. And then, of course, you had that whole discussion between assimilation, and integration, right? How do you navigate the two?
Yeah.
And so when I got involved in youth work, we said, look, we want to give something back to the next generation so that they don't have to go through the struggles and obstacles and hardships that we had to go through. Hence where Hype was born. We said we're gonna put a structured program for young people so that they have older brothers, good role models in the community. The young girls have older sisters, good role models in the community, who have found that balance between deen and dunya, if you like, right? Between the Islamic and the Western sort of lifestyles, and not compromising their deen in the process.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started. And then 2007, 2008, we started having these little wannabe gangs around Newcastle, right? Who were trying to act hard and stuff, and they were fighting each other. These are along ethnic lines. They're trying to fight each other. So we went and started to sit with the young people out in the hotspots where they were hanging out, and trying to basically bring them back to, some form of balance,
Right.
I guess I would say. And that's where it all started. And then we started doing the full-time youth program. And then we went into the summer camps where you guys joined, and the winter camps. And then now, alhamdulillah, we brought it back in 2024, where we're doing it weekly sessions, where you boys are running it now, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, just to add on a bit to what Abu Tayyib was saying, to be honest, back then there was a lot of postcode wars. You're from this postcode, he's from this postcode.
Any foot.
Soon as you stepped in and someone's seen you and they don't recognize you, fight starts. And to be honest, although I don't see a lot of postcode wars, etc., it's so easy for people to be misguided and go into the wrong path. It's not public anymore. You don't see the fights, but there's other underlying issues that the young people are going through. And I think the Hype is a very good program, like AT said, bringing them together, where us or other members of the Hype committee can be a role model to them.
And what happened was you guys became from attendees to peer mentors.
Yeah,
pretty much. We're an example of success.
Exactly, right? And then as peer mentors, you were giving the younger people to you a bit of guidance, and you were given responsibility. And then from peer mentors, you became organizers, right? So what is the Hype for those who don't know? Hype is meant to be an alternative, safe space for young people where they can have halal fun, right? That's number one. It's also a place where they can learn something about their deen and get some tarbiyah about Islam. So there's formalized workshops that go with that. And then the third aspect was, which is what we always want to incorporate, which was the physical exercise and martial arts and self-defense. So you have your spiritual element and your deen-related workshops, if you like. You had your social element where they could make other Muslim friends who they might not have in their schools or whatever, but they have halal fun. And then you have the physical element, which is the martial arts, self-defense, and you can talk a bit more about what we've done so far. But it's the idea is to have that holistic sort of approach to youth work. And then you've got like FIFA tournaments and all that sort of stuff that
which
goes
I'm
with it.
just running through these kids, man. They're not taking a break. I've slapped every single one of them.
It's lucky I'm not holding the controller.
I've only drawn. You know this guy, yeah? He chats so much, yeah? I was Punjab FC.
Nice.
It's was it half a star, 1 star? And he was
doesn't matter. The
Real
outcome is that one.
Madrid, PSG, and I took him all the way to penalties.
It don't matter.
It was like 3-3. I took him all the way to penalties, and we ended up there.
Showed a little bit of mercy, which we'll talk a little bit on. Now they're going to hold into you for the rest of your life. The outcome was I won, fair and square. Doesn't matter what team I was playing. Doesn't matter what team I was playing. But yeah, like Hetty said, the idea of Hype is for people to come in and have fun. People from their age, people who might be older, people who might be younger, they all look up to each other. People with similar ages, characteristics, people's akhlaq is very contagious when you're around friends.
Yeah, rubs off on each other.
And it gets spread around very quickly when you're with the right group of people. As soon as you're in the moment with the wrong people, it's very easy for you to go down in that path. And I think the weekly program is definitely good to keep them engaging, especially on the
Absolutely.
weekends.
And we know that the Prophet ﷺ
Alayhi salatu
mentioned
wassalam.
about this, about having good friends and good companions.
Yeah.
He said, you are upon what your companions are upon.
Mm.
So if your companions are good, you're going to be good, more than likely. If you got bad friends, you're probably going to pick up some bad habits
Yeah.
along the way, right? So what we're trying to do is be that good companions, that program of good companions.
I think we've really created a safe space for the kids, to be honest. I mean, last week we had a new kid join us. He was about 14. And at the beginning he was a bit shy, like just kind of in the corner doing his own thing. By the end of it, he came up to me. He was like, "Oh, next week in the FIFA tournament, I'm playing against you. Like, I'm gonna smash you, all that." So I think we've really created that safe space where they feel comfortable to come to tell us some stuff that they might not even feel comfortable telling their parents.
Exactly.
So we can be a sort of guidance for them, a role model, whilst also giving them their deen and even like life skills. We've done business workshops with business professionals. We've had career advice with people from careers. So I think it's a
the
great
good
mission.
thing is that we've got the one thing that I forgot to mention earlier about the Hype Youth program is we have like a mentoring system that runs behind it, behind all of the fun and everything else. It's not just free play. There's a structure to everything. So we've got what Brother Wajid and Taha on board, who are doing like a leadership program for the young people to get them into becoming leaders in their own right. So I think that's important as well to have as part of the Hype program. But if someone's watching this now and says, right, I want my teenagers to come. Remember, we do from 12 to 18-year-olds. I want my young people, my child to come to Hype. What do they have to do to register, bro? How do they get involved?
Come down to Shipley Avenue, number 2 Shipley Avenue. We'll get you guys signed up. It's a small monthly payment of £20 a month, but that's just to cover the costs of coaches and electricity, stuff like that. But inshallah, your kids can benefit. We've got quite a few kids as well, so like spaces are running out. So make sure you get them nice and early. So
or you can email info@mtep.org and request a space like that as well. And there's a website as well. Did you see the website? Myhype.com or something like that, isn't it? Check what it is, myhype.co.uk. You can check all the activities on there as well. Have a look.
So
have you got on screen? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't looked it up. I don't have it. I don't have it on myhype.com.
.co.uk, I think.
Sorry to everyone's watching.
That's it,
myhype.co.uk.
Look
share it on the screen, Jazzy.
Look how good that looks, man.
You know who made it?
You.
No.
I was gonna say that because you said it with a bit of. You know what I'm saying?
Scroll down, Jazzy. Look, are you doing a screen share right now?
Oh,
go on.
I remember that football game.
As long as you don't have any pictures of me there.
That's the time. That's the timeline, yeah, of with the history of Hype right there. So scroll down.
It goes way back.
Yeah, man.
Way back.
There you go. It's a nice little website, isn't it?
Yeah, looks sick.
One of the other former Hype boys. And the contact details are there as well. All right, good. So, what are we talking about today, boys?
Last week we were talking about courage, which was a great topic. I think maybe we should get a bit of insight from yourself as well. I mean, we talked about it for quite some time, so maybe you can give us a bit of words, and then we'll.
So, what did you cover last week in courage? Give a summary.
I mean, for me, I think when we were talking about courage, one of the biggest takeaway points for me was, like it's all good and well being big and strong and physical, and that's good. The Prophet, it said that the stronger believer is more beloved to Allah than the weaker believer. So, we should be strong. We should be physically fit and healthy and capable of violence, if that makes sense.
Of defending yourself at least if something happens. Yeah, absolutely.
So, but at the same time, it's also important that, because we have to look at the other sides of strength, because it's not just about physical, it's also about mental. So
mental resilience, yeah.
Yeah, the Prophet, he also said that trying to get the word, that the stronger of you isn't the one who can, take the other person down. It's the one who can hold back his anger. So I think courage and strength for me is also about being able to withhold yourself and being able to also stand up for what you believe is to be right and wrong.
What about you,
Yeah,
bro?
to be honest, we also covered some stories of the prophets, how they were courageous,
Mm.
and how we should implement it into our life. We talked about Ibrahim, talked about Musa. He had to build a lot of courage to go
Yeah.
and face Firaun by himself. But there was a lot of key points to take away, and also on how to be courageous. And if people remember, we ended it with a dua that the Prophet used to say, and in that dua, the Prophet used to say, I seek refuge from cowardice and from what was it? Just gonna pull it up. I can't remember, but it was from incapacity and laziness, from cowardice, and from miserliness from being
Miserliness, yeah.
miserliness. So that's a dua that the Prophet used to make, and we all know the Prophet used to be one of the most courageous. In fact, he was the most courageous prophets, and there was a covered variety of it.
Mm.
And like Is-haaq said, it's not all about physical and violence.
And yeah, I agree with that. I think there's one point that I would just add to that: the strong believer is better than the weak believer.
Mhm.
It's not just about physicality, which it's important for, like you said, and the mental health aspect of, or mental resilience and mental strength. But I think there's another aspect that the scholars talk about, and that's the spiritual strength. Being spiritually strong, being spiritually, or having taqwa and having ikhlas, and those things which are important for the believers to have as well, because that's a strength in and of itself. Having
And it takes
taqwa,
patience too.
is a sense of courage and strength. Why? Because what it means is, and patience as well. Actually, you're right there, and patience as well. Because what that means is, you're going to make sure that you do things that are pleasing to Allah, even if you don't have to. Like we're fasting right now. In this country, no one's going to say nothing if you don't. You see what I'm saying?
Pretty much.
But Muslims, they do it because of taqwa, because they have that fear of Allah and they want to please Allah and do things which Allah is pleased with, and stay away from the things which Allah forbids you and tells you to stay away from. That's a level of courage and strength that is from within. So this is why physical, mental, and also spiritual, it has to all be intertwined and linked together.
And subhanAllah, a lot of the topics we mentioned, courage, and the one before it, patience and tawakkul, all align with it. And it's all characteristics that we need to have, one which complements the other to be able to build you in full.
Yeah.
And the next topic we're talking about is mercy and forgiveness.
Mm.
Um,
One thing you didn't get to do last show, you ran out of time. You didn't get to share your experience of courage.
He just summarized
Yeah,
it, bro.
yeah, so I wasn't born here. I was born in Yemen. Some people that are viewing it probably already know me. They know some sort of my background. So I pretty much grew up in Yemen. And at one point we had to migrate, obviously for safety. So me and the family had to pretty much dip the country and move to somewhere where it's safer, where we can actually have a brighter future. And it wasn't an easy decision, neither for our parents and neither for us, because we were leaving the homelands, the family, everything that we had, start a new life somewhere that we've got nothing to know about. We literally came, and when we came here, it was just me, and I've got 4 other brothers, mashallah. And it's just us. We were all little kids. We were all like 10 years old, 8 years old, 5 years old. My oldest brother was like 16 or 17 back then. So it took a lot of courage, even for my mom, to make that steps, because my dad wasn't here first. He came later on. Stepping into a country, we didn't know how to speak English. We didn't know our ways. We didn't know where to go. We were just getting passed around from one hostel to another while they're trying to sort us out. It got to a point where you know, they would actually want to send us back. It wasn't a safe country. Even while we were living there, the conditions were not the best. You know, you see one thing, two things, three things that you don't really see it in these countries where in the safer areas. So yeah, I think for us, we even had to build that courage, even when we started schools, to start to engage with people that we didn't know, we didn't speak their language, and slowly we built it up, and it took a lot of patience from us and from my mom, because we always complained at the beginning. We would always say, "Can we go back? This is not for us. We can't speak the language. The food, we don't like it." You know,
The weather.
Yeah,
How about the weather?
The weather is terrible.
The weather is always cold. It wasn't really for us at the beginning, and then it was just a acclimatization process of just going, and it took a lot of patience from us, from my mom, and just building it up. And it wasn't easy stages. So that's kind of in summary, kind of.
That does take courage and
Okay.
strength, you know. It's not. It's people underestimate it.
Yeah.
I think it is very important to highlight that.
So this week's topic, forgiveness and mercy. I think the best place to start. You're gonna have to. I'm sorry, because my nose is so blocked. It's been blocked for the past 3-4 days. I'm trying to not breathe like through my nose. It's difficult, but so this week's topic, forgiveness and mercy. I think the best place to start is what is forgiveness? What is mercy? What does that mean? I mean, for me, it means about, you know, it's compassion and being able to empathize. I think for me, you know, you see your brother, he's made a mistake, and he's asked you for forgiveness. You're compassionate towards that. You empathize towards that. You realize that even you yourself make mistakes, so it's only fair for him to be able to make mistakes too.
In an informal way, is letting us slide.
Basically, let it slide, bro. Let it slide. Sometimes it's all right, man. Let it slide.
And I think this topic applies to everyone, all ages, whether you're young, middle age, or even old. And I do actually have some stories from work that I will share later on about forgiveness. But I will tell you, quick question for you.
Go for it, bro.
How can someone have that forgiveness in him towards another brother, even though he might not like it?
How can they have forgiveness? That's a good question, bro. I mean, look.
That's a straightforward question.
Yeah,
I think that's a way to start it off.
I think that we have to look at what Allah says in the Quran, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Inna rahmatullahi qareebun min al-muhsinin. Okay? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and loosely translated is like, Allah's mercy is close, so Allah's mercy is near to those who are the good doers, or those who are righteous, right? So for believers, from a believing perspective, from those who are Muslims and mu'mineen, from their perspective, we're required to understand who Allah is and emulate his names and attributes.
Yeah.
Right? So as believers, what we're required to do is study the names of Allah and the attributes of Allah. And when we look at it, when Allah says he is the most merciful, then no one can be more merciful than Allah, right? So we want to try and emulate, although we can't be like Allah, but we want to try and emulate some of those characteristics in our behaviors, okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that, for example, every single one of us wants and needs Allah's mercy. Every single one of us. Believers, non-believers, the animals, all of the creation of Allah needs Allah's mercy, okay?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, we make mistakes ourselves. So we might screw up sometimes. We expect other people to forgive us.
Yeah.
So if other people screw up, then we should be also forgiving towards them, right? And when we look at the big picture, when you put it in perspective, then ultimately, what's the big prize that we all want as Muslims? What is it we want? We want Jannah, right? So in Yawm al-Qiyamah, how do we get Jannah?
Through the mercy of Allah.
There you go. Yeah. Right? It's you can do your good deeds and you might have your bad deeds, and then you'll see them on the scales. But at the end of the day, at the end of it all, it's Allah's mercy and only Allah's mercy that is going to enter you into paradise.
Yeah.
Right? No matter how many good deeds, or no matter how good behaviors you had, or how much even worship you did, at the end of the day, it's Allah's mercy that will enter us into paradise. And of course, we're encouraged to do those good deeds and encouraged to do more worship, because pleasing to Allah. When you please someone, they're more likely to be merciful to you, towards you, right? And in Allah's case, at the end of the day, it all comes down to His mercy, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will enter us into Jannah. So when you think about that, when as believers, if you think about that, we want paradise. How do we get paradise? By Allah's mercy. So we all do good deeds and we do sinful deeds, right? All of us, every human being will do that. So somebody, like coming back to your question, if somebody has taken your rights, or has done something to oppress you, has done something to upset you, then and Allah encourages us to have mercy and rahmah between the believers. How do we do that? So one of the most difficult things to do, I'm just putting it out there, it is very, very difficult, because when someone takes your rights, the first thing you want to do is, right, give me it back. What do you think you're doing? You can't oppress me. And you want to get into a fight with them, or you want to hold a grudge, or you want to be petty, your ego kicks in, and so on and so forth. One of the hardest things to do is to turn around and forgive someone. Do you remember that story, that video that was going around, where the Muslim father, elderly man, someone killed his son? I think it was
like
in America.
Indonesian or something.
Yeah, I think it was one in America as well.
Yeah.
I have seen it.
Yeah, he killed his son, and he was in court and everything. And he said, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And the guy broke down crying. Like, how did this guy, I killed his son, how did he just turn around and forgive me like that?
I think he even hugs him too.
He does. Yeah. So, and it's and that is powerful. That video is powerful. It shows you that as Muslims, we're bound by not just our own egos and our own desires, but we have a framework in which we live in. We have the blueprint. We have the best way of living in Islam, because Islam gives us everything and puts everything in its right place. Everyone's rights in its right place, so to speak, right? But it is one of the most difficult things to do, Muhammad. In my opinion, it's one of the most difficult things to do.
No, it definitely is. Even if we go way back to like the Prophet times, for example, the Prophet Muhammad, he was getting oppressed. They used to throw rocks at him. They used to verbally, physically abuse him. They done everything, right? But even though sometimes he had the power to fight back, he had the power to say something, he would just forgive them, had mercy on them. And on top of that, he would ask Allah to have mercy on them, because although he forgave them, the Prophet was getting worried that Allah, because he's the Prophet of Allah, Allah then
when they abused him,
pretty much will
send the angels down,
send the angels down and wipe them out. So then he'll ask Allah to forgive them. And obviously, like Abu Tayyib said, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy. It was never an easy. Even when he took over Mecca, he didn't even prosecute the people that were, having a go at him.
Sahabas grabbed him and brought him in front of him and said, "What are we gonna do with these guys, man? Like they were oppressing us, they tortured us, they killed us. One of them celebrated one of his son's death around the streets of Mecca. Like, this is like some serious stuff that was happening." And the Prophet says, "Let them go, let them be free." Like, that's subhanAllah, that's crazy to me. I mean, it takes a different type of like
courage and patience
to be able to do that, you know.
And there was even some hadith saying by the Prophet, I'm just going to quote it, not word by word, but it goes along the lines, if you have mercy on the people that are on earth, Allah will have mercy on you when you're up on the day of judgment.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely.
And that was a powerful hadith, because the little act, the little kindness that you show, the little mercy, whether it's to actual human being or to whether it's a cat or like an animal outside, they're both, showing mercy in a way. And in Allah's book, there's a lot of good deeds that's getting written for you. Every little act counts at the end of the day. And we're in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, where Some people say Laylatul Qadr was yesterday. I don't know, but
Politics, bro. Politics.
Potentially. No, potentially. I mean, it's the 21st night.
They say that if you know
Saw some
Laylatul
of the
Qadr,
signs of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
follow within the Friday, etc. But I don't know. Regardless, the last 10 nights are blessed
yeah.
nights where forgiving others, you'll get hasanats, you'll get a lot of rewards, you'll get good deeds, and asking forgiveness from Allah. And I think that's also another topic that we're going to touch, making tawbah and asking forgiveness from Allah.
Personal experience for myself.
Yeah.
Wow. So I had an accident with my car. And
Always, always.
This was bad, man.
It's never one accident. It was never one accident.
So I was driving down, and there was a lady in front of me, and she cut me off. She didn't signal. She didn't check her mirrors, whatever. She crashed right into the back. I crashed right into the back of her. Like, I pressed my brakes as hard as I could, but I couldn't stop myself at that point. It was, I was gone basically. And to be honest, the way I jumped out the car, and I was basically having a go. I went ballistic, yeah. And you know, I could see that she was like upset from this, and so like I took a breather. You know, I was like, you know what, what's done is done. And I said, astaghfirullah, you know, to calm myself down. What's done is done. Alhamdulillah, no one else was injured. Like she had her kids in the car, and they were fine. I was fine. You know, they say metal's replaceable, but your life isn't. You know, so alhamdulillah, I was fine.
Health over wealth.
Health over wealth. But yeah, to be honest, the entire day, I felt bad. I felt so bad for the way I had reacted. And some might say it was warranted or it was justifiable, but like at the end of the day, she was old enough to be my mother. And would I react that way to my mum?
Yeah, exactly.
Never. So, you know, at the end of the day,
alhamdulillah for Islam, bro. It gives us this framework and these mannerisms and these behaviors, and it gives us a standard that we go back to.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, where's the boundaries?
Yeah. So yeah, once I finished work,
Mm.
I jumped because we exchanged details for insurance purposes. I jumped on my phone. And I was like, "Hi, it's Is-haaq. By the way, I'm so sorry for the way I reacted. Like, it was, you know, in the heat of the moment. Like, emotions got the better of me. I hope all your family's okay. Hope your mother's okay, because she was in the car with even her mother as well.
Okay, subhanallah.
And I was really apologetic, and I asked her for her forgiveness. So I think that's a little personal story of myself, of a time when I had to overcome my emotions at one point and ask for forgiveness from, you know, these things happen, you know, like you do, like you will get annoyed at that moment, and you will get upset, but it's about controlling yourself and realizing that, like, would I want this to be a record against me on the day of judgment where I've upset her to that point? I wouldn't. So
That shows the importance of self-reflection, especially when trying to forgive someone or having mercy. I do have not my personal experiences, but for some of my patients. So I work as an
oh, we've had a fair share of crashes.
We'll get to that later, maybe. But some of you who may know me, I work as an audiologist, so I work with a bit of elderly patients, and a lot of them, when they come in, we get way off topics when it comes to like talking to them, etc.
Yeah, they like to talk, right?
Yeah, they love to talk. You remember that when we were cleaning the car, and it's just some old guy just stopped by, and he was just talking to us for like a good 20-30 minutes, even though we were busy cleaning, etc. One thing about, you know, older people, they love to talk, they love to engage with other people. Sometimes they even love to pass on their wisdom, etc. And they talk a lot of topics. Some people, I've heard topics about, you know, divorce, people that, you know, had fights back then, people who moved country for certain reasons. But I had one guy who was very upset because a family member of him literally recently, before his appointment, passed away. I think it was like within a week or something. And he attended his appointment, and I seen he was upset. So we were talking, and he had one regret: is he held a grudge towards that one family member, and it involved money. Basically, it involved money, particular reason.
Root of all evil, man.
He couldn't let it slide.
Yeah.
He pretty much couldn't let it slide, and he couldn't forgive him. And like he'd gone years and years and years and years, until the day that family member passed away. And now, ever since that day, he was telling me he would look back every day and think about it. Maybe if I forgive that person, I would have actually ended it in a good terms.
Yeah.
If, and there was a lot of ifs, but what good does it do? The ifs. The past is the past.
Yeah.
And he was, he regretted it. And if he would go back in time, he would definitely change how he acted.
Yeah.
How he expressed his angers, and forgave that person essentially, so that they can end in good terms, and actually proceeded to be more within the family. And I think it's important because we don't know when a person might pass away. We don't know when a person might go away. You know, it could be you today, could be me tomorrow.
Yeah.
We never know. And it's not a good thing to hold a grudge. First of all, it affects your peace. You know, knowing you hold something against someone, you know, it affects your peace. You always think about it 24/7. It affects, you know, your daily life. It affects how you go on about it. And it's not really a good quality to have as a person, especially as a Muslim person, because we follow the prophets and their characteristics. You know, we've talked about patience, tawakkul, and courage, but also being forgiveful and having mercy on other people is also an important characteristic to make you a better person, and to get hasanats and to get good deeds, especially in blessed nights.
We've got a comment.
I think we've got a comment there.
What's the comment, bro?
Before Islam and after entering Islam, I didn't have the best of relationships with my sister. Whilst on my journey in Islam, I forgave all of the issues and trouble we went through. From Dan? Does that say Dan? Yeah, Dan 24, I think it is. Jazakallah khair for sharing. Guys, keep sharing your comments. Keep putting your comments down. Like, share the stream to other people.
And I think you feel at peace. Once you solve a problem, it's out of your mind.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
You know, you literally become at peace.
100%.
And you know, you don't have to think about it. You know, everyone has other stuff to worry about. And having something on top of your mind just distracts you. And sometimes it'll be over little things that's not worth it, especially for us young people. You know, something that we see in common. You know,
spit out, don't laugh.
You know, some people can't let it slide. You know, let's say I had this drink in the fridge, and my mother came and took it. Some people can't let that slide, and they'll hold into it. Remember when you took that drink? Forgive me, giving me,
bro.
All the time it happens.
Leave food in the fridge, and someone takes it.
That's why you should have a fair game policy, bro.
Yeah, like in the office.
Like in the office, everything's fair game.
Yeah. The idea of it
if you leave the food lying around, that's your fault.
You need to lock it up, bro.
There you go.
The idea of it is some people would fight over things that's not really worth it. The Prophet showed us that he was able to endure and forgive something that's more harsh, extreme, and he was to levels that none of us, if we had to go through it, even just a little bit, will be able to let it slide. You know, none of us will be able to be patient. None of us will be able to be like, okay, let me step back. Straight away, everyone is going to act on the spot, on the movement. Yeah. And if the prophets can do that, why can't we just let stuff slide? Pretty much, even like the little stuff. It's debatable sometimes on the older stuff, but again, you can always consult other people and just ask for opinion, scholars. It all depends on how big it is. But we're just talking about the minor stuff that people can't let it slide. You know, whether it's a drink, £100 maybe, you know, a little bit of change, and it happens, especially with the young kids at the moment. You know, people don't have money, they don't work, they go to school. Oh, can you lend me money? They don't pay it back. It gets a problem, starts fighting, and then it arises. And the idea and the message that we're trying to spread is sometimes letting it slide is far better than actually holding a grudge and like causing more trouble. But that's what I think, in my opinion.
I think as well, you know, when you have these little petty things, they build up and it gets to a point where it starts off with little petty things and it ends up with something major where, you know, your grudge and your, I don't want to say hate, but your dislike towards that person grows and grows and grows if you keep going through these little petty stuff that really doesn't matter. So I think that's another point as well.
And if you fall into that situation, it's always best to step back. If you know they're not the right friendship, right group, you forgive them, but it's not within your heart to forget and be with that. Maybe take a step back. Always be with the right, friendship. Having good companions is essentially best and the best thing that you can do instead of being within that friendship group and like trying to chase over like petty stuff and not be able to let it slide.
That's also part of brotherhood and understanding what brotherhood means, right? Within Islamic context. Maybe that's a topic you should talk about as well, and on one of your shows.
Yeah.
How to maintain the ties of brotherhood, not just family ties, but also between the brothers, and have mercy between the brothers. You know, be easy with them. And as you know, and I'm just paraphrasing off the top of my head, the Prophet talked about the one whose hand is safe, the one whose tongue is safe, the one who is safe from his brother. We have to be like that so that we defend our brother's honor as well, especially when in their absence. It's very easy to jump on and be like a sheep like everyone else. Someone's backbiting your brother and then everyone just sort of jumps in and starts maybe even under banter or under the guise of banter, or even some people just stay quiet.
Yep.
That's not defending your brother's honor, right? So that's not part of mercy either. And so having your brother's back is just as important as letting things slide.
Yeah.
Right? So I think they're both somehow interconnected.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think in terms of forgiveness, coming back to the topic of forgiveness and mercy, I think one things we have to keep reflecting on is how it is for us, right? In terms of from an individual perspective, what's the self-interest here? At the end of the day, we all want Jannah. And you know, that's why the Prophet talked about all the children of Adam are sinners. But the best amongst the sinners are those who constantly repent, meaning the ones who keep turning back to Allah, making tawbah. Guys, I think this is so underrated and people don't understand it enough. And they don't talk about it enough. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone makes sins, as I mentioned earlier on, but it's the one who does Allah love the most, the one who makes a sin and returns back to him, rather than the one who doesn't make a sin or thinks they don't make a sin and becomes arrogant because of it, right? So the one who makes a sin, and we all make sins, Allah is most merciful. Okay, so Allah's mercy encompasses all things. So that means that we have to remember that when we make tawbah, why is tawbah so important? Because that's part of forgiveness and mercy. If you want Allah's forgiveness and mercy, then you have to show it to others as well, as and when it's needed. And that's why, what is tawbah? Tawbah is, what's the first condition of tawbah?
It's having sincere intention.
Stop the sin.
Stop the sin, yeah.
You got to stop
sin.
it first of all.
Well, what's the first thing you got to do is you got to recognize the sin that you've done.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the first thing. You can't be in denial about it. Recognize that you made a mistake. You've done a sin. Then what's the second thing?
Stopping the sin.
No, what you said before.
Having the intention to stop the sin.
Yes, being sincere and asking Allah sincerely for forgiveness, like really deep down from the heart. Cry if you have to cry. Between you and Allah, you are sincerely asking Allah for forgiveness. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is refraining from falling back into that sin, not putting yourself in a situation where you might fall back into that sin, protecting yourself from that, making an intention to say, Allah, I'm going to try my best not to do that again, right? And then the some scholars say there's a fourth condition, which is if you've taken the right of somebody else, then you have to go and seek forgiveness from that person as well. And if you do those steps, Allah will forgive you. As long as you're breathing, Allah will forgive you. Sincere, that is. Allah will forgive you. And then, even if you fall back into that sin, it doesn't matter. Even if you fall back into that sin, you go back to step 1 and do it again, 2, 3, and then keep doing it until you're strong enough. Allah gives you the strength to stop doing that sin.
Doesn't matter how many times you fall into
As long as you're breathing, Allah will forgive you. And you ask Allah, Allah will forgive you, inshallah.
Inshallah.
You know? So that's why it's important to understand what Tawbah is and how it's linked to forgiveness. And I think the final point from me, I guess, is going to be about balance. You know, the older I get, boys, the more I'm trying to find balance in my life, in everything.
Yeah.
The deen, the dunya, everything that we do. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about this a lot. Be balanced. He used to always talk about being balanced. And this is why when we talk about forgiveness, it also depends on what has happened.
Yeah.
What the action is. Because we're not like some people where it's like we forgive everything. We turn the other cheek on everything.
Mhm.
Well, no, sometimes you don't turn the cheek on things. Sometimes you have to hold people to account. Sometimes you have to not let things slide.
Correct.
Otherwise, how are people going to learn?
Mhm.
Because people, unfortunately, we're living in a society where people manipulate and exploit your good nature.
Yeah.
And you can't, we're not stupid people as well, right? We're balanced. So on one hand, we have the love for Allah, not to the extreme where everything is about love. And it doesn't matter what you do, Allah loves us, so it doesn't matter what we do, good or bad. We have the love for Allah and the love of Allah. So we balance that with having fear of Allah. Because having the love of Allah means what? You're going to try and do more good deeds because you want to please Allah.
Yeah.
Right? When you love someone so much, you try to please them.
Mhm.
So you have the love of Allah, but you balance it off with the fear of Allah. Meaning you have the necessary fear of Allah and consciousness of Allah to stay away from the bad deeds as well. So encourage you to do good deeds, but you also stay away from the bad deeds. Okay? Because you fear Allah and His punishment. Allah shows balance in the Quran like that. Jannah and Nar, right? Then it's like love and fear. And then in between all of that, you have mercy, the mercy of Allah. Some people just focus on the mercy. Oh, it doesn't matter how bad a sin I do, Allah is most merciful. So they just carry on through life, not developing themselves, not getting closer to Allah, not following the footsteps of the Sunnah, because that's what this show is about,
Uh-huh.
following the footsteps of the Prophet. So they just say it doesn't matter, everything is small, negligent, Allah is merciful, and everything is about hope,
Mm.
right? But the believers, we balance everything between love, fear, and hope. So we love Allah, that we try and do good deeds to please Him. We fear Allah to stay away from His punishment and the things that He doesn't is displeasing to Him.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we have hope in Allah for our shortcomings between those two things, that Allah will have mercy upon us,
Mhm.
right? And that's where it's balanced between all three things. And I think that's the main point that I wanted to highlight was, yes, we have to look at things and let some things slide, but sometimes you've got to address things.
Yeah.
And, when you forgive people, it is with a balance as well. It's not to an extreme
Mhm.
where you just forgive everything. And then you become the target of exploitation, right?
100%, yeah.
So it's about being balanced and sensible about things. And sometimes you got to hold people to account,
100%.
I think it's important. Like, if something is displeasing towards you, like if you're upset by something, you've got to be able to man up and be like, bro, like what you did weren't right. I didn't like that.
Mm.
And I have another personal story of mine of a situation like that. I was with two of my friends, and we were sat. We ordered some takeaway, and one of them got a phone call, so he jumped on his phone, and then he's talking. We're all chilling, and he goes, "Oh, can I borrow your car keys?" I'm like, "Yeah, take them. I thought he was gonna go into the car and like just finish the phone call off in his car because he didn't want to like disturb the restaurant or whatever.
Mm.
And I'm sat talking. I turn back and my car's gone.
No.
I was like, what? What the heck's just happened?
Broad daylight robbery.
Literally. I turned around, my car was gone.
That's
I
shocking.
was like,
That is shocking.
what's just happened? And when he came back, I was like, bro.
That's out of order. You don't take another man's car without permission. Isn't that right, Jazzy?
I was like, bro, what's going on? You didn't tell me you were gonna take. Like, if you told me, oh, I'll take your car. I just got to go somewhere real
At least
quick
ask permission.
and
You know what I
come
mean?
back. I'll be cool with it. I'll be calm with it. Yeah, do it, bro. Like, at least I know where my car's going, where my car's coming. I don't know where he's gone. I don't know where he's come back from. I had no clue.
Damn.
So I pulled him up on it. I was like, bro, like, next time, just let me know, innit? Like, I didn't like what you done there. And he was like, yeah, of course, bro. Like, sorry, it was misunderstanding, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think it's important that if you are like, and this is the thing, because we're both like good friends and brothers in Islam, like he's okay with me pulling him up and telling him that, and I'm okay with him coming back to me and saying, okay, my bad, bro, next time I won't do it again. So I think that's also important to recognize.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, nasiha is an important aspect of the deen. And that's why the Prophet said, "Ad-din and nasiha." Why? Because when we hear brothers say and sisters between themselves, they say, "Oh, I love you for the sake of Allah."
Yeah.
Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah made a very good point about this. He said, "Well, what does it mean when you say that? What does it mean, Muhammad, when you say, oh, I love you for the sake of Allah? What are you actually saying?"
Put me on the spot.
I don't know. What do you think, Is-haaq?
I think it's about like putting your brother first, being able to like sacrifice. Like, it might not be something that you want to do, but because it'll make that brother happy and Allah happy, then you'll do it and you'll do that action. That's what.
What about you? I love you for the sake of Allah. When someone says that, what does it mean to you?
To be honest, I think it could mean two ways. They might not like me, but they like what I do and stuff. I love you for the sake of Allah. But it could also mean, you're a really good person, and I love you for the sake of Allah, for the good deeds and what you've been doing, etc. We've got a question. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam by Fayaz, yeah?
How are you, Fayaz?
How we doing, bro? Are we all good, yeah? Are you a money, yeah?
Dropping some questions, engage with us.
The point is I was trying to make was, when you say that to somebody, it means that you're able to advise them. I love you for the sake of Allah, because you've done something good and it's pleasing to Allah. You're doing something for the deen. But it also means the other side as well. When you don't do something, I'm able to pull you up on it and say, advise you, give you some sincere nasiha, and you don't get defensive about it.
Yeah.
You don't get defensive. You can actually take it and say, yeah, it's a good point, brother. Thank you for reminding me on that. Because the reminders are for the believers, right? So you've got to look at it it's a good point that you said there. The brothers should be able to be merciful enough with each other that we can pull each other up in a nice way, in a polite way, in a manly way for brothers, right? Meaning you don't just chat behind their back. You do it man to man, right? You sit them down, you have a chat with them and say, brother, I didn't like what you did there. That's not something that's good for you. That's something that's displeasing to Allah. Let me advise you. This is the better way of doing things, right? And that's how brothers should be. What I really honestly annoys me so much, and people do it a lot and have done it a lot to me in the past, is when they don't like something that I do, but they never tell me to my face. Do you know what I'm saying?
Cowardice.
I'll find out.
Yeah.
It'll come back to me one way or another.
Yeah.
But they never tell me to my face.
Yeah.
It's a simple phone call. You guys know my phone's on 24/7.
Yep.
Someone and I say to people, you don't need to give permission. You don't ask my permission to give my number. If someone needs my number, there's a reason why they've asked for it. Just give it to them. You don't even have to ask me. Just give it to them. So my phone is pretty much on 24/7. If someone does have an issue, they should call me up or arrange an appointment or sit down, come and see me, sit down and we'll talk about it. Maybe there's a context why I've done something.
Yeah.
That's why I come back to the point earlier that defend your brother's honor in his absence. Don't all jump in because you don't know the context behind it necessarily every single time.
And have husn al-dhan, like we were talking.
Have husn al-dhan.
Just
there
a
you go,
second
right?
ago. Yeah.
So yeah, be manly about it and just say, look, this deen is nasiha is advising each other, and the brothers have the right. It's one of the 6 rights of a brother, of a Muslim, that you advise them sincerely when they ask you for it. So nasiha is an important aspect of which is linked into this conversation. You should be able to take advice from each other without getting defensive, without getting all worked up about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's an important point as well.
Mhm.
Good. Well, any more comments or questions on there?
Doesn't seem like it.
Any more comments? Well, I think that was a good show. I enjoyed my time. Just to remind everyone, do get yourself involved into hype. Do support IDC. With doing some amazing work, doing great work, and come down for the Salat at City Mosque. You know, freshly opened.
Because City Mosque, bro.
Been a week.
No, it's been
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
It's
3
the
weeks.
third Jummah.
Yeah, 3 weeks, I guess.
So 2 weeks, but we opened on the first Jummah of Ramadan.
Yep.
And now we're on the third Jummah. So
Yep. At
2
Shipley
weeks.
Avenue. Shipley Avenue. I've lost the plot. It's at 41 Granger Street.
Union Chambers, bro.
Union Chambers, right next to Savers. It's in the middle of town. Like, you're not gonna get a better location.
City centre,
You don't
bro.
have to be a student to get in. So we've got all the 5 salats there. We've got Taraweh there. Come down, join in the salah, and make sure to donate.
Meet some of the
any last
brothers there.
points?
Meet some of the brothers there. You'll see me there.
You'll see
You'll
Mohammed
Abu Tayyib
there,
there. Yeah, come and say salam if you see us inside. Yeah.
Maybe
think-
play a hype video, Jazzy, for the outro.
Yeah, let's get a hype video.
Find the hype video. No, you got to find it, bro, and do it. But I think there's you know, just to finish off, there's a nice statement, I guess, about having the taqwa of Allah, and you know, wherever you are, fear Allah as much as you can. Okay, have the taqwa of Allah as much what's in your ability, and work on it. You know, understand what taqwa means. Taqwa is a protection. It's a shield to protect you from the punishment of Allah. By how? By doing the things that Allah is pleased with and staying away from the things that Allah is displeased with. And everyone, this is the month of Ramadan. We have the opportunity to. Shaitan is chained up. You see how our behavior is improved?
100%.
You start doing more ibadah, you're getting more closer to Allah. You want to try and continue that throughout the year, not just in Ramadan. And then, you know, having the taqwa of Allah wherever you can, and then following up a bad deed with a good deed, okay, and behaving well towards people is what the Prophet ﷺ advised us. Following up a bad deed with a good deed. We all make mistakes. Making tawbah is one thing, but then you can do good deeds, like give charity, right? If you've done something wrong, or you've done some haram, or you've fallen into sin, or whatever you've fallen into, follow it up with a good deed. And one of the best good deeds you can do, we're fasting in this month, you pray your salah, you make dua, you make tawbah, but you can also give charity. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here.
Plug it up.
Support
plug it up.
IDC.com.
IDC.
Put it on the screen, Jazzy. Support IDC.com, because IDC needs the funds to continue the good dawah work that's going on in our community. And you'll get a sadaqah jariyah for that. For every shahada, every new Muslim that someone becomes Muslim by taking their shahada, and they learn the salah through us, they learn the basics of Islam through us. Every time they pray and every time they fast and every time they give charity, you will get a portion of those rewards without diminishing theirs. Why? Because you funded the organization to be able to do all of that work, right? So if you want to get some easy rewards on the Day of Judgment, support IDC.com, right? Let the brothers and sisters do their work.
Support
And
IDC.
also, if you think you're capable for it, volunteer and join the organization, volunteer and become part of the dawah, right? And then the final thing that he said was, and behave well with people. I think there's 3 points that are very important there. Behave well with people, meaning fulfill people's rights. Don't take people's rights, fulfill people's rights. This month is the month in which everyone gives sadaqah and zakat and their charity, right? So this is the way in how you behave well with people, by being generous and by fulfilling people's rights. And I think that's a good way that's the last point that I think I'm going to make, inshallah. What's happening, Jazzy, bro?
Okay, we got
I can't read
Fayaz.
that from
May
here,
Allah
bro.
accept all of your du'as and ibadah in these last few blessed days. Ameen, ameen,
Ameen.
ameen.
To you, brother, and
Jazakallah
to you,
khair for
and to you.
tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.